So for today's video, we've got the top 10 power forwards of all time. I've already done the top 10 point guards, shooting guards, and small forwards of all time and uploaded them the last 3 days. And if you haven't already checked those out, make sure you do. All 3 of them will be linked down below in the description. So today we've got the power forwards, tomorrow we've got the centers, and both of these are very exciting ones to do. The power forwards in particular, the top 5 of them are very hard to rank, and it was very interesting to make this list. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get right into it. So starting off the list with some honorable mentions, as always, the first one is Bob Pettit. He's a guy that would probably be making the list if he didn't play in the 1950s and 60s, but we all know that if you're playing in the 1950s and 60s, you really didn't have that much competition, and unless you were something extremely special and without a doubt an all-time great, you're not going to be thought of that much. So Bob Pettit just misses out on the list because he didn't play with a lot of competition, but he still gets an honorable mention. Another one is Chris Webber. It was basically a toss-up between him and the guy I put at 10, but ultimately I went with the other guy, who you'll see who it is in a second. But Chris Webber was still an incredible player throughout his career and gets an honorable mention. And then the last one is Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh contributed to championships when he was a role player, but he was really at his best when he was a role player, getting rebounds, playing defense, and playing in the paint, and just misses out on the list because he wasn't as dominant at one particular thing as the other guys that I put on the list. So there are your honorable mentions for power forwards. At number 10 on the list, I've got Dennis Rodman. I mean, come on, we know what Dennis Rodman's about, and because of it, he has to make the list. He was a dominant defender and easily a top 5 defender. Some people would consider him the greatest defender ever. He was a clamp god that was an incredible on-ball defender and just dominant overall on the defensive end of the floor, and contributed to championships with the Chicago Bulls because of his defensive abilities. He's also probably the greatest rebounder ever. He wasn't exactly the size of a center, but we know what he did throughout his career. He easily averaged 10 rebounds per game, and like I mentioned, was an incredible defender. The only reason he's not ranking higher is because he didn't really have an offensive game, but because of his rebounding, his contributions to championships, and his incredible defense, he has to at least rank here at 10 on the list. At number 9 on the list, I've got Elvin Hayes. Elvin Hayes is a guy that I think is a very underrated player and should easily be considered a top 10 power forward of all time. For his career, he averaged 21 points per game and 12 rebounds per game, a dominant center inside, who also made the all-defensive team many times throughout his career. He was a very good, as I mentioned, rebounder, defensive player, and offensive player inside, and in his prime was an extremely dominant player. He even contributed to a championship and helped lead the 1978 Washington Bullets all the way to the championship, and because of all these reasons and how his legacy is boosted with this championship and how dominant of a player he was in his prime, he definitely makes the list for all-time power forwards for me. At number 8 on the list, I've got Kevin McHale. We know Kevin McHale was Larry Bird's duo mate in the 1980s when they were winning championships with the Boston Celtics, and throughout Kevin McHale's career, he played his entire career with the Boston Celtics and goes down as an all-time great because he helped contribute to 3 championships with them. And that's the main reason he's ranking over a guy like Elvin Hayes. He wasn't as dominant of an offensive player, but he was a winning player that helped contribute to 3 championships over his career, and in his prime was an MVP caliber player without a doubt. In one season, he averaged 26 points per game, so on the offensive end, when he didn't have another dominant player alongside him, he was incredible himself. He was also one of the most efficient players we've ever seen, having a field goal percentage over his career of 55% and having 2 seasons of having a 60% field goal percentage, leading the league in that as a small forward, which is very impressive. And he even made the all-defensive team 6 times throughout his career as well. So he was a very good two-way player who won 3 championships throughout his career, and that's why he's ranking here at 8 for me on the list. At number 7, I've got Anthony Davis. I think AD has moved up a little bit on the list, and going into this last season, the 2019 and 20 season that is, all he had to do to boost his legacy was win, and he did that by winning a championship with LeBron James and the Lakers. And despite having LeBron, he was also a big leader towards that team, easily their second best player, and has really proved that throughout his career he's consistently been a top 10 player in the league, which none of these other players on the list have really done consistently throughout their career. And really, AD is one of the best two-way players we've ever seen. His defensive impact changes the defensive system of an entire team. He can guard anyone on the court, is a very good post defender, and is an incredible rim protector and inside defender. So he's dominant on the defensive end of the floor. We know what he does on the offensive end of the floor, has consistently averaged about 25 points for his career, and could be moving up on this list as the years go by. For now though, he's at 7 with his championship, and like I mentioned, one of the best two-way players we've ever seen, and he's still working on padding that all-time resume. As I mentioned, he could be moving up on this list because he's still got a few very dominant years left in him as one of the best two-way players we've ever seen. At number 6 on the list, I've got Giannis. Giannis is one of the most interesting and complicated players to rank on an all-time list right now because he's still got so many dominant years left ahead of him. But he still won 2 MVPs and a DPOY already in his career. He's one of the most dominant players we've seen in a while. When he's running at you in transition, you have no hope. He's 7 foot, he's going to run right into the paint and is extremely dominant in the paint. A very good rebounder as well, and we know how dominant he is scoring the basketball near the rim. I mean, he's already won 2 MVPs like I mentioned. He's won a Defensive Player of the Year as well. He has to rank a little bit over Anthony Davis because of his MVPs and his Defensive Player of the Year. And by the end of his career, I can see Giannis easily being a top 3 power forward of all time, if not the greatest power forward we have ever seen play the game. Like I mentioned, he still has tons of years left in him, and the reason he's ranking at 6 right now is he still hasn't won a championship despite being on a lot of stacked teams and being the best team in the regular season. So if he's to win 1 or 2 championships throughout his career, continues his dominance, maybe wins a couple more MVPs, he could easily go down as one of, if not the greatest power forward of all time. For now, he's ranking here at 6 for me. Starting off the top 5 now, at number 5, I've got Kevin Garnett. We know Giannis is probably going to pass KG by the time his career's over, but for now, KG is definitely a top 5 power forward of all time. We know that he's one of the most winning players we've ever seen, contributing to multiple championships, doing whatever the team needs him to do, and when he was in his prime with the Timberwolves, he even won the 2004 MVP. So the fact that he's won an MVP and multiple championships throughout his career with the Boston Celtics as well, contributing well with them on both ends of the floor, he definitely has to rank in the top 5 for now. We know how good he was on the defensive end of the floor as well, making the all-defensive team many times, and really the only reason I don't rank him higher is because he was never really an overall dominant scorer of the basketball, except for when he was in his prime with the Timberwolves. A lot of people might have him higher, but I definitely got him here at 5 for now, and I respect Kevin Garnett's career and his game, and he definitely has to be in the top 5. At number 4, I've got Charles Barkley. I'm a guy that has Charles Barkley easily in my top 20 of all time, and something that does hurt his legacy, as we know, is the fact that he never won a ring, despite being on a lot of championship-worthy teams led by him. But I'm still very high on him, and I rank him over KG here just because of how dominant of a scorer he was in his prime and in a very long-lasting prime. He also won an MVP in 1993, which was really the peak of his career when he was an incredibly dominant offensive player. And for his career, he consistently averaged 22 points and 11 rebounds for his career. He was a very dominant player, and for these reasons, despite not winning a championship, which holds him out of the top 3 of my power forwards list, he's still a top 4 power forward of all time because of his offensive dominance. At number 3, I've got Dirk. We know what Dirk Nowitzki is about. He's one of the best scorers we've ever seen. He revolutionized the game by being a big man that shoots jumpers, shoots threes, and was an incredible player in the post with his dominant fadeaway, and is a member of the 30,000 Points Club, an incredible accomplishment, and he's a guy that also throughout his career won an MVP and a championship, which really helps his legacy. And in 2011, when he led the Mavericks all the way to the NBA championship and took down LeBron and the Miami Heat in those NBA finals, that was really a career-defining moment for him, and a big reason why I think a lot of people might have him 2 on this list. And the reason I don't have him above the guy I put at 2 is because I just think he was a little bit more dominant on the offensive end of the floor and scoring the basketball, but Dirk throughout his career, there were times where he was a defensive liability as well. So because of his play on the defensive end of the floor, he doesn't rank higher than this, but because of all the reasons I've listed, like his MVP, his championship, and his dominant offensive game, is why he ranks at 3 for me. At number 2, I've got Karl Malone. Now, of course, putting Karl Malone's personal life aside for this ranking, I do have him at number 2 on the list for multiple reasons. First of all, he led his team all the way to the NBA Finals in 1997 and 98, and his legacy does take a little bit of a hit because he never won an NBA championship, but I still think he should get credit for that. He won an MVP as well in 1997, being an incredibly dominant player, and I don't think people realize that he is the second leading scorer in the history of the NBA, scoring 36,000 points for his career. And that alone ranks him just a little bit over Dirk Nowitzki, but also the fact that he's a 4-time member of the All-Defensive First Team, for me, puts him over Dirk. It's a very interesting comparison since Dirk has the championships, they both have an MVP, but overall as a player, I think Karl Malone was just a little bit better on both ends of the floor. So those are the main reasons I have him at 2 here. And finally, to end off the video, at number 1, I've got Tim Duncan, a 5-time NBA champion with the San Antonio Spurs, a 2-time MVP in 2002 and 2003, a very good overall player on the offensive and defensive end of the floor, and most people probably consider him a top 10 player of all time. Tim Duncan, in my opinion, is the greatest power forward of all time, and it shouldn't really be a debate. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 power forwards of all time. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. As always, make sure you leave your list of top 10 power forwards of all time in the comment section below. I'm always very curious to see the different lists in the comments, so make sure you do that. Thank you all for watching this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss out on any of my new videos that I upload. Tomorrow I've got the centers video. For anyone watching this on the date of the upload, Happy New Year to you all. I hope you guys have a great New Year, and I will see you in 2021.